having a feeling to belong to something which is more than themselves. But we have so many identities, so many types of identities. I'd like you to think about some examples of different identities. Could somebody give me one sort of identity, like, let's say, ethnic identity is something which comes very easy to our mind. What other identities would you see? Political identity. Economic identity, status. What else? Religious identity, very, very good. What else? Personal identity, gender, age, all groups. Anything else?
Culture identity, ethnic culture identity.
Cultural identity. Now, cultural identity is probably one of the richest concepts and not easy to define, because then immediately we go to the next question: what is culture? What is culture?
A set of beliefs and that you were raised with, maybe hopefully from the beginning, so from childhood to adulthood. It depends on region, it depends on religion, it depends on ethnicity, even economic status.
Where is the first place where you meet culture? Yes, yes, absolutely. How would you define material culture? I wrote it down for you so that it's not easy to really define it because it is an indicator of ideas, beliefs, attitudes, lifestyles, behaviors, moods, and is connected with a multi-system of interrelated mechanisms that work simultaneously, such systems as a social, economical, political, commercial, social, geographic, symbolical, artistic. All those are intangible things, and they are shaped by a new profession. They are shaped by a new activity which we call what? We call design. Design. And you know what is the simplest definition of design? The simplest, and probably the broadest, is that whatever is not done by accident is done by design. Whatever is not done by accident is done by design. But then there is a lot of confusion, and we are constantly using design instead of art and art instead of design. So let me raise another question, and I'd like your inputs. What are the similarities and what are the differences between art and design? The similarity first.
Both inspired by beauty or aesthetics.
Now you talk not as an artist. The artists at UCLA are vehemently against the idea of beauty and art. They feel that the priority of an artist is to express truth. And very frequently truth is not beautiful. But it reaches our emotions, and they are trying to reach the emotions of their audience by stating the truth. And truth sometimes is awful. So beauty is important, and I think design is more committed to beauty than art today. But let's think in terms of processes. What are
Nathan, if I wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
I heard a comment when I was at the IBSA conference, because there was this topic on ugliness and what's ugly, because they were saying how design is becoming more less aesthetic and more ugly because it's becoming more functional, practical. And the fellow at Rios, a fellow at Del Coates at San Jose State, said, "Ugliness is novelty with no redeeming value."
I remember that.
I thought that was a good quote. Ugliness is novelty with no redeeming value.
Yeah, yeah. Now, back to similarities between art and design. Back to similarities between art and design. Let's think in terms of process, and tell me if you agree with me that they are both decision-making process. Designers and artists are both making decisions. And there is something else to be said. Those decisions are fulfilling needs. Fulfilling needs. You agree? Now, what sort of needs are fulfilled by art, and what sort of needs are fulfilled by design?
Are you so? Go ahead. Then you society, the user, and taking into consideration everybody, and when you make a decision, you shouldn't make it yourself, but you should include and let others participate in the decision.
In other words, you are speaking about designers, no? Yeah, in other words, you fulfill needs which are outside of yourself, needs which are the needs of the user. For instance, is your chair comfortable? Are you feeling comfortable? Now, who made your chair comfortable? Somebody who designed it. Now, are paintings comfortable?
Well, those are emotional needs.
Now, very good. You just answered it. That the art is fulfilling emotional needs. The artist is fulfilling emotional needs. Music, painting, sculpture, theater, emotional needs. While the designer is fulfilling emotional needs too. But the emotional needs are usually fulfilled by objects which are not used. Because when the objects are used, they have to fulfill additional needs to the emotional needs. For instance, your chair has to be pleasant when it's not used and when you sit. But when you sit on it, it has to be comfortable. It has to be solid. It has to be affordable. It has to be easy to manufacture. It has to be durable, right? So all those are functional needs, material needs, economic needs, which are in addition to emotional needs.
Well, one case in point you can say, Nathan, is that certainly art not only does it deal with expression, but you're talking about personal expression. It's much more personal to the creator, and usually an art, a piece of art or an art form is done by that person who actually enacts that expression or participates or does that directly, whereas a designer may not actually build or make what he does.
It's very true. It has to do with the beginning of the process. Art starts always inside the artist, and design starts outside the designer.
Exactly.
The designer has to fulfill outside needs, and he must be sure that he's meeting these needs, while the artist doesn't care about the audience. The artist cares about his needs to self-express himself or herself. In other words, the artist creates art in order to express himself or herself, and has no need to make sure that his art is sold. As a matter of fact, if an artist designs art for the market, this is a form of corruption. It's very similar to the form of corruption which sometimes exists when an artist designs art for a political party. The artist has to be true to himself or herself. And sometimes the artist dies in glory because his expressions have been very successful. Sometimes the artist dies in misery because it takes many, many years until his work is understood. How often have you heard this expression? Is this art? What is it?
Well, Nathan, another case in point that you may find where there perhaps is a conflict between art and design, or perhaps, as you say, this sort of misinterpretation or understatement. When you look, for example, at, say, postmodern movement in design, which, again, was an attempt to be more expressive in design, more personal, perhaps one may say cynically more ornate or decorative, as opposed to more functional. You take the case in point that you simply took a very simplistic form as a chair and was able to say, well, with this chair, it's supposed to give expression to the form and to the function and the object, and it looks beautiful, and there's some beauty and expression in that chair. But until you sit in that chair and it provides sort of its functional value, then it's really not a chair, or not a comfortable chair, or a successful chair. But if you look at, say, some Memphis work, which is sort of maybe that was the epitome of postmodernism, where there was some work that was very questionable in terms of it being functional, or even being relevant to being a functional object. It was really perhaps designed for the idly rich, or something, perhaps. What is your feeling on that sort of dichotomy, or that attempt to be still expressive as an artist, being sort of a rejection of the very modernist movement that was very simplistic and almost benign of expression or feeling?
Well, the question is that design has to be experienced usually physically, while art can be experienced visually, could be experienced in a way which is not tangible. It's a spiritual experience. Design goes beyond a spiritual experience. You have to, sometimes you can quantify the qualities of design. You can measure the size of an object which is comfortable and say that these are the standards for comfort. Sometimes you cannot quantify a painting, you cannot quantify a sunset, you cannot quantify uplifting music. Those things are very, very emotional. They are on a level of the spirit and not of matter. While in design, you always deal somehow with some figures, whether it's price, whether it's measurement, whether it's resistance of a material, and therefore I think that design needs, in addition to feeling, needs a lot of knowledge. A designer has to be somebody who understands emotional needs, but somebody who knows also where to find the latest updated information. There's a lot of technical information which goes in design. And technical information is changing continuously. What was good 10 years ago is not good today. Think about the computer. The computer in 1950 took 8 floors at MIT. One of the first computers was developed on 8 floors, and in 1952, computer was sold for $8 million. And it was an incredible pace of change. In only 40 years, the computers have changed so much, probably more than any other major piece of equipment. If you think about the changes of a house in the last 50 years, you will find they are not so radical in terms of price, in terms of size, as the changes of the computer. So the problem of design is also that design has to cope with change, but it's also not conceived for eternity. while an example of art of antiquity could be beautiful today as beautiful as it was in the past, many things in design don't last more than a few years. I was talking today with a friend about furniture. If you had bought antique furniture 20 years ago, the price of this furniture has increased. While if you would have bought contemporary furniture 20 years ago, the price would have been lower. Now, I'm not happy about this situation because I'd rather live my time, because I feel one of the roles of the designers is to create an identity of our time. It doesn't mean that it's all it's better. There are plenty of examples of things which were created today which are outstanding, but we lack the capacity to understand quality in today's work of art, of culture. It takes some time until people appreciate contemporary painting, for instance. Now, this leads me to the second point, tradition. Tradition and innovation. I wanted to mention that traditionally, cultural identity was based in reinterpreting elements of the traditional heritage. Traditional cultural identity was reinterpreting elements of the traditional heritage. But the traditional heritage requires a coherent, stable culture. If you think of in terms of Oriental culture, if you think in terms of African culture, those cultures have been there for centuries and therefore have built an incredible treasure of traditional heritage. What sort of cultural identity can we develop today in Los Angeles, which is a multicultural city with no majority and with no past? Now, how can we approach this problem without giving up the idea that we need to have an identity? Because do you know what is the opposite of identity? Anybody knows what alienation means? It means somebody who's insecure because of a lack of identity. And sometimes I've seen this happening in Africa. Western designers can design alienation by transferring without any consideration values and forms and systems from a highly industrialized society to a pre-industrialized society. And this is why the study of anthropology is so important for designers and for architects, because you see, 150 years ago, there was a sculptor, Horatio Greenough, who said for the first time that form follows function. And then Louis Sullivan, who was an architect in Chicago, took up this slogan and repeated it. He said, yes, form follows function. And then a student of Sullivan, Frank Lloyd Wright, used to say that function and form are one. Nowadays, there is a designer, Victor Papanek. How many of you have heard about Victor Papanek? He wrote some very interesting books, which I hope you have a chance to read while you are here. Victor Papanek is quoted to say that form follows culture. And to make this more explicit is when I was in Kenya, I was amazed to find out that in a country with at least 40 different cultures, each culture being transmitted orally and not in writing, has different habits. For instance, the Maasai culture, which is one of the leading cultures in Kenya, are sleeping on the ground. They put some nice skins or other covers and sleep on the ground. The Akamba culture in the same country at a different culture feels that the closer you are to the ground, the closer you are to death. And their beds are very, very high. Now, think about the dilemma of a designer who has to develop a hospital for a place like Kenya. What should be the height of the bed? Perhaps you should make it adjustable, like we have our chairs. But those things are very serious issues who are really affecting the balance of the person. Therefore, we really have to understand a lot about habits, about material culture, about tradition. And the point I wanted to make tonight is that in a society where you do not have a long history and where you have a situation of multiculturalism, the answer is not to give up the search for a cultural identity. But I think the responsibility lies with the designer to use innovation as a new cultural identity. In my opinion, cultural identities can be designed. And the most important component of a new design cultural identity is innovation. Where there is no tradition, in my opinion, the answer lies in innovation. And I will try to illustrate this point with a number of slides so that it becomes clearer. Now, a few words about futurism, change, and innovation. Are you aware that 100 years ago things were changing very slow, or not at all? And that at the beginning of the century, the futurist painters were the first who suddenly became aware that we have now trains, we have engines, we have a new century starting. Everything will be different. And they started to paint things which were very different from the past, and they were called the futurists. I don't know if you are familiar with the work of Balla and Marinetti and Boccioni. They are all Italian artists who started at the beginning of the century a movement called futurism. They say, hey, things are changing. They won't be the way they were, and we have to start thinking about the future. Now, this didn't happen last century. It happened only in this century. And what they foresaw as a change has been exceeded by the pace of our change. And I think we can say that in the last 10 years we have changed more than we have changed in the last 400 years. And if you think only in your own lifetime, the appearance of all new systems. You can buy today gasoline with a credit card. You don't have to pull out money. You can give me some examples which happened in your lifetime. Micro oven, very good. How many of you have ever had a suit made by a tailor? Good. Only two.
I make it myself.
You make it by yourself. How many of you have had a shoe made by a shoemaker who takes the measures of your foot? There are things which don't exist anymore. So what I think we have to realize is that we are living in a period where the only absolute thing is change. And the major problem of your generation will be that the change in your time will be faster than the change in my time. Now, I'm the third generation to experience change, but you will be a generation to experience very fast change. And then one of the major problems when you become an educator is what do you teach for young men and women who have to face a future you don't know?
What do you mean by a future that we don't know?
Well, how much can you predict about our future in terms of, let's say, transportation?
Well, I can't, but I don't think they ever were able to predict. The future has always been unknown.
That's true. Do you think that 15 years ago somebody knew that we'll have a fax?
Cell phones,
Well, do you think we can fax watermelons next year?
maybe. Like Star Trek.
well. So what I'm trying to say is that the change is not taking place in an organized way, and change is not designed by a visionary person. Consumerism didn't come in a planned way. As a matter of fact, we had two social systems dealing with consumerism. We had command economy and market economy dealing with consumerism. But consumerism was not considered material culture in any of those systems. It was considered a way to earn money, to make money. It was based very frequently on greed. And what I'm trying to say is that it's very important for designers to understand what is the social value of design. In other words, how can design, in addition to all the qualities which we have mentioned, like comfort, like cost, like manufacturing, have a social value? Would you like to design gadgets for somebody who wants to become rich overnight and has no idea how to invent something? Or would you like to design school furniture for a low-income society where the children have no chairs to sit? Are you able to see the difference? Okay, the problem which creates change is technology. And technology has existed always. When I was in Africa, my African friends explained to me that it is very arrogant to think that technology is an invention of Occidental culture. Technology, they said, means to plow the land. Technology means to make fire. And technology is as old as a human being. But today we have high technology. We have communication technology based on electronics. I left my notes in Los Angeles because I wanted to catch my plane. And I called Professor Goins. I said, well, I'm sorry, I have no notes. He said, well, they must have a fax at your hotel. I'll fax them to you. So those things were not possible 10 years ago. Just 10 years ago. The fax caught me by surprise. I must tell you that I've never dreamed by fax or for a fax. And what is interesting is that today technology anticipates needs. In other words, we develop a new technology and then we start thinking, how can we use it? It's sort of backwards. It's sort of backwards, and it happens because some busy minds are curious and discover things which suddenly become incredibly useful. If you think to the chips and to the whole change of economy in our country, where the big leadership in the economy is not anymore in oil, weapons, steel, or cars. The leadership is in chips, in computers, in entertainment, in multimedia. Even the computer is out there. How can you think of a computer without attaching it to telecommunications and to the video? And the entire industry, the entire corporate world is changing. It's changing habits.
Let me ask you a question. You would think that as you speak about sort of this advancement in technology and what the opportunities may be today in terms of new advancements and access, that it sort of liberates the individual and to be more, empowers the individual to be more participatory, to be more involved in one's environment or accessing it or making an impact. As opposed to the past when one was not able to transcend such depth. But then one has to really think, when you look at the advancement of this technology, has it really liberated us, or has it really
confine this because now we are more dependent on the technology. Again, the lights go out, the electricity goes out, and nothing functions. It's non-functional. And so therefore all the individual games that we may have had or been able to do in the past, we now become non-functional because we don't know how to go beyond the means of our technology. So and the question is, has the technology really advanced us, or has it really limited us or made us more dependent on the technology or on that environment that the technology exists?
Well, one thing which your question invites as an answer right away is the fact that technology has transformed us in the most vulnerable society which has ever existed, because today stop of power stops all the computers and stops all the elevators and stops the entire country. Here, a stop of power in India may be totally unobserved. People have matches, they have candles, life goes on. So this is one thing. The other thing I want to tell you is that a couple of weeks I heard on the radio a statistic saying that 18% of people who own remote controls for television misplace them and forget where they are. And another result of the same study says that 9% of those who misplace the remote control find it in the refrigerator. Now, is this a form of liberation? Yesterday, I got this piece of literature saying that over 15 million Americans suffer from depressive illnesses. Depressive illnesses take a staggering toll. They cause great pain to millions of people. The lives of families and friends are affected, often seriously disrupted, and they hurt the economy, costing an estimated 30 billion in 1990. It is issued by the US Department of Health and Human Services, by the National Institute of Mental Health. Now, how can you not relate this to technology, to an overloaded mind, to an overload of communication? Compare our commercials with the commercials in other countries. You will see that the pace is much faster. Everything is accelerated. We get bored if it's not fast. So all those are very serious issues, and I'm glad that you asked the question, Ricardo, because I think that those issues should be of great concern to designers. You have constantly to relate form to culture. And as long as you will do that, your audience will not become alienated.
I think that designers are not always fulfilling needs, but they are creating needs. Because I can relate to what you're saying. I'm not from this country, and I have created many needs that I didn't have before I came here. So I think that most of the time creating needs.
Well, we are excessive in many areas, and we are not aware of it. And it's very true that the excessiveness is created by designers who somehow are not concerned about the peace of mind of the consumer. Let me give you an idea, one example. I constantly get very frustrated about packaging, because you have to open crackers with your hands, and the cracker was packed by a machine, and you don't have nails, and you don't have scissors, and you get desperate. But the worst thing happened to me a few weeks ago when I got my shirt from the cleaner, and it was wrapped in a polyethylene bag. I pulled out the bag. There was a stripe around the shirt with a message saying, "Have you kissed your wife today?" So I throw away the strap, I throw away the carton, I throw away the piece of carton which was under the collar, and there was 3 buttons missing on my shirt. Now, instead of fixing the 3 buttons, I got all this unnecessary package and message, which cost money, and which was certainly designed by some designer who wanted to prove to somebody that he has a good idea. So, to answer your question, that's a very, very serious issue, that a creative mind could do bad things as well. I mean, you don't create only good things, you create bad things. And therefore, the critical attitude in evaluating that social value of design as a relationship to the cultural identity is, in my opinion, a very important exercise which unfortunately cannot be quantified. And therefore we have to talk about it. We have to learn how to think design. It's not enough to know design. You have to learn how to think design. If you really want to create something which has value and quality. And this whole concept of, or question of what makes quality design needs to be constantly debated. It doesn't mean that you don't think positively if you complain about something. Sometimes by complaining, you can really analyze and discover something like you just said. Anybody wants to make a comment? Okay, move along. This was point 7. It was my feelings that as designers we have an expanded role today. We have not only to deal with form, we don't have to deal only with visual things. In addition to them, we have to understand those connections of form to society, to environment, and to the quality of life. I'd like to show you, yes. I want to show you a few slides in which I have tried to illustrate identities based on tradition and identities based on innovation. I hope that this concept will become easier to understand after you see those slides. But I'd like to have your inputs, and then we will have a little break, and then we look to 2 video tapes in which again I want to raise the issue of cultural identity and have some of your thoughts so that we can together clarify what may seem still very intangible. I will start with large examples of design, large scale, which is architecture. And I'd like to illustrate 3 different identities. A religious identity, a political identity, and a commercial identity expressed by architecture. Does anybody know what this cathedral is? It is the largest Gothic cathedral in the world. It is the Duomo in Milano. It has been started in 1380 and has taken 5 centuries to be completed. It has been all carved by hand. It has several hundred of statues and pinnacles. It is dominated by a golden statue of the Madonna. It's in the center of the city of Milano. And you can come and walk on the roof on various staircases and have a fantastic view of the city. It is certainly a very impressive symbol which dominates even today the skyline of Milan. This is the largest government building in the world. It is the palace of the Republic in Bucharest, built in 1984. I mean, the building started in 1984 and it lasted until the last days of the totalitarian president of Romania, Ceausescu. You may have heard about him. I just visited recently the city of Bucharest, and I was overwhelmed by the size of this building, which is at the end of a large avenue with 6 lanes, which was aimed to be larger than the Champs-Élysées in Paris, which has in the middle fountains and ends with 50 fountains, and which ends with a building which has 7,000 rooms, which were including the home of the president, with 8 floors underground, connected with tunnels, military buildings, and ministries in the city. And it's a whole development which has required the erasing of many historical monuments, homes, and churches to create this, what was called the Boulevard of the Victory of Socialism.
So in terms of identity or style or architecture, you would say this is purely a political statement?
Yes, but I'm coming now closer, and thank you for raising the question. The assignment given to 10 teams of the architects, I had a chance to discuss about the process of developing this building. This is a back entry. This is where you come with the buses and you come into the building. The assignment was to develop a building which has classical proportions and national ornaments. Classical proportions and national ornaments. And there were 10 teams of architects who have not succeeded to please the head of the state, and he fired them all and hired a young student of architecture who was ready to please him and do whatever he wanted. It's, you know, like working for a big developer. And he accepted this proposal, which had columns, like in classic architecture, but the ornaments of the columns and the capitals were all inspired by traditional rural regional art. Now, Frank Lloyd Wright used to say that ornament and decoration could be either applied or organic. What do you think ornaments and decoration are in this building? No, I fully agree with you. They are applied excessively. And this building was done 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, started. And inside, we have again applied decoration. Everything is gold, marble. 7,000 people have been working in this building. And this is furniture and the chairs inside. Now, it has been done to express power, but also to ignore our time. I mean, does anybody see any connection with the 20th century in this building? And now, in contrast, I'd like you to see a landmark in Los Angeles. Now, this is still a big skylight.
Excuse me, Nathan, in terms of that, what do you think is the attempt in ignoring the future? Is that a statement itself in terms of an autocratic society that says that we will be steeped in conservative tradition, or we don't want change, and change is what is it? Is it too revolutionary, or is change sedition to the powers that be? How would you assess that?
I think that this building has a double symbol. One is the symbol of ignorance, because in my opinion it's like Disneyland creating replicas instead of inventing something to express our time. And the second symbol is a symbol of power, of narcissism, of somebody who really didn't care about anything except the symbolic quality of something to remind people of his time. And in that respect, I think it's a great success. It's like a monument to a dictator. And now I want to show you a landmark and a symbol or an identity developed in Los Angeles to express our time and trade. Pacific Design Center. It is called also the Blue Whale because the architect, Cesar Pelli, felt like Los Angeles has absolutely no point of orientation, and therefore he wanted to create something memorable so that people know when they come closer or when they go further, and he decided to make this blue glass building, which has a sculptural quality, which is one of the most economical buildings in the city, and which is designed to create a number of permanent showrooms, and which also brings a very interesting case in the history of architecture. It's the first time in the history of architecture when the architect of a very large building has been called back to complete the building with additions. And this is the second building, which is adjacent to the first. You can see it better on the model here. You see the green building close to the blue building. Also designed by Cesar Pelli. It's called the green building, which is ready, and the other gray building is a parking structure. There is also a very nice open air theater and a small building which is a museum. It's called the Pacific Design Center. If you come to Los Angeles, don't miss seeing it because I think all sorts of interesting things inside. Now, the same way as I feel that technology gives us what I call techno-stress, which is this loaded mind with multiple priorities. I think the technology also pushes us to use innovation in developing a cultural identity which represents our time. And this is a working station developed by one of the leading designers of San Francisco. Does anybody knows of him? Outside Ricardo? Who said Bertie?
Yeah, we had with Ricardo's class, we went there on a field trip.
Yes, yes. This is a working station developed by Bertie for Herman Miller. And it's an interesting concept in which the office is not anymore a flat surface which instead of being used as a working space is used as a storage space. There are different levels, as you see, for different functions, and it has a nice concept of joining a conference room for visitors close to the host who can go to the computer, answer the telephone, and perform a number of functions, including eating candies, in an environment which looks suddenly different from the traditional desk This is a large version, and here is a smaller version of the same. As you see, there is a more intimate relationship between the visitors and the host. The host can turn the chair and work to the other office. And the most important thing is that you are always reminded of where to put your things, because you are all these spaces created for your papers, for your pencils, for your keyboard, for your computer, and it is very, very innovative, in my opinion, compared with what was done before. The basic concept here is that people have to perform, because of the new technology, a variety of jobs while they sit. And therefore, there is a need to break the monotony of the disk, which was so far represented by a flat surface, into different areas for different functions. A new identity in office equipment, which was created for the first time in 1948 by Marcello Nizzoli in Italy, which was a radical departure from the big typewriter to the small portable typewriter designed for Olivetti. Now, needless to say that this typewriter today is huge compared with the little brothers printers which we have. But in 1948, this was a very, very radical departure from what was a typewriter, and I don't want to start giving you here a history of design, but I just want to say that it is the role of the designer to take the initiative and use innovation to develop a new cultural identity. I'd like to go to another area, which are urban furniture. And I'd like to go to kiosks and show you some examples of what can be done in this area. This is again a photograph from Bucharest, Romania, where there are a lot of new vendors who are part of the transition of an economy from a command economy to a market economy. Everybody is invited to privatize. So everybody starts selling little things on the street and brings a table and displays their merchandise. These are lottery tickets. These are newspapers. And some of the newspapers are displayed in this way. I'm sorry, I think the photograph is out of focus. But then, and this is reversed again, my apologies, and then there are a lot of kiosks made for food or for newspapers, but they look so primitive and so totally impractical. Made it an act of curiosity to analyze those kiosks, because I will show you in a moment. So these are all various kiosks for vendors on the street in Bucharest, Romania, Eastern Europe. They are totally unrelated. They look sort of dilapidated. And the reason I was interested in this kiosk was that we had a student. Well, first of all, I want to show you that it doesn't mean that the primitive nature of the kiosk is a result of economy which has been developed. Probably the most advanced kiosks in the world could be seen in Slovenia, in Ljubljana. This is a kiosk designed by by Sasha Mektik on a modular system made out of fiberglass, which looks extremely well in the city of Ljubljana, would look well any place in the world. It is based on a number of components which somehow remind me of your medical care unit, Ricardo, which can be assembled for a diversity of uses. It could be for food, it could be for newspapers, for tobacco, or even for a parking attendant. But we have a student who made as a degree project at UCLA a study of city markets in Mexico. And that reminded me of the situation in Eastern Europe, because he spent the Christmas vacation photographing markets in Mexico, and he came back with this discovery, creative solution of an umbrella, which you see, and which was the key of his answer to this problem: what to do for a city market to change the situation. So he photographed a number of vendors, and the umbrella became like an obsession. And then the umbrella is becoming larger because it becomes a roof, like a tent. And then this solution was a very simple component with two umbrellas and with several inserts which could be folded easy to transport, easy to install with these fiberglass containers for merchandise, with special signage, and with a color code system, so that each market has areas dedicated to food, to produce, to beverages, to dresses, plastic items, according to the color of the umbrella. And I think that the idea was also very valid economically, because it was conceived for city halls to sell at cost for street vendors these units, so that the aspect of markets become attractive and somehow representative of a certain culture. So this could be considered an example of a proposal of a cultural identity for Mexico. We have at UCLA the largest concentration of vending machines. And needless to say that they are not very exciting to see. And the problem with our vending machines is that they create a lot of garbage. And the graphics of the packages are not very exciting, but you eat 50% and you throw away 50%. So those are the things which have to be thrown away. And disposability is a very important element for anything we design if we really want to care for our environment. There's a lot of need area for our packaging, for the graphics of our packaging. And luckily there are new developments in garbage. Our garbage containers, in my opinion, are another example of a cultural identity, because we have the largest garbage containers in the world. The amount of garbage which we are producing, I think, exceeds any other production of garbage in the world. Therefore, the container should become a major area of concern for designers. So this is an area there. Therefore, in connection with vending machines for food, you need to have sitting areas and you need to have garbage collectors, and all those three elements were integrated by some studies which I have not brought here, but which are very interesting. At the project at UCLA, where the assignment was develop a vending machine to be placed in the center of the sculpture garden without offending any sculpture. These were one of the solutions, which was also based on a modular system. The same unit could be repeated and used vertically or horizontally, and which could be used also not only as vending machine, but also as information center for videotape information, containers and dispensers. Now back to Romania. I thought that some of their street lighting were very interesting. In a little city north of Bucharest, Brașov, there were interesting outdoor lightings. Some of them were on the buildings, some of them are in the... Is it out of focus?
Yeah, it's influence.
So I think you can see just freestanding, but they all have quality of being related to each other and fitting very well in a traditional environment. I'm going to street to urban furniture. I wanted to show you the study made for the Olympics in Los Angeles, where the new innovation was a problem of scale. The designer realized that to give an identity to Olympic Games in a city like Los Angeles means to basically create a design for television. It was done so that on the camera, on the monitor, it looks impressive. And it was an interesting situation that seen in the city, the decoration of the Olympics were not so impressive as seen on the monitor because of the scale. It almost looked like Italian laundry hanging in an old city because of this scale problem, but it was an interesting concept which worked very, very well on television. These were the various systems of attaching banners. I noticed that you have it here now for the zoo. But it was an interesting study made by Reja and Sussman. And the big debate, I don't know if you are aware, is that there was a big conflict at one moment, speaking about cultural identity, there was a strong opposition to the use of our national colors for the Olympics, so that the visitors don't feel being snow. And in the last moment, the national colors were changed in a new palette, which was developed by the Sussman-Reja office. But the interesting thing is that they really designed a language, they didn't design a product. They developed components which were grouped together, different arrangements, and all together created this temporary identity of the Olympic Games in Los Angeles. There were tent supports, there were signs and tubes and trash and candles, be assembled in a few or many. Which gave a character of holiday and celebration to the entire city. Sorry, of course. But it was a language, it was a system, it was an identity. And also, large surfaces were graphically developed to give a sense of a cohesive identity. It was canvas attached to grids, heavy grids, temporary. And this was a signage.
Was the identity also to be sort of reflect what LA is as far as the color scheme?
Yes, yes. In my opinion, it was too much related to ice cream. It was too much orange pistachio and
Was there a concern to relate to it, like sort of in this sort of fantasy Disneyland type thing? They didn't want to be too Disneyland, but they also wanted to get this festivity.
It was California. But this logo upstairs, up there, in my opinion, was a very good logo. But then the problem was that they used blue, white, and red, and they wanted to avoid people feeling dominated by a sort of local post-patriotic sign, and therefore the last moment decision was to explore these new colors. But altogether, it was, in my opinion, a great feeling of festivity, something very festive, an identity which had a temporary quality, but which on television looked extremely well. And which had anything, as you saw, from various components to uniforms. This was security, and this was staff who was there to help. This was at the USC, what you saw before was at UCLA. And what I wanted to say again is that 100 years ago, this type of design wouldn't have been possible because of the materials which were used. All these fabrics were nylons, were acrylics, were materials which could be washable and which were dyed with colors which were not changed by the sun. There was a lot of iron tubing, and there was a lot of air and balloons. So, the purpose of showing you those slides is to show how innovation used wisely in design would create a sense of identity. Now, to end this presentation, I want you to know that I was debating this issue for many years as a designer. I am very much interested in packaging, and I had some projects on packaging about 20 years ago, and I was concerned about what could be done to expand the entire concept of packages. And my projects were in Italy, and I was fascinated by the tissue paper which was used to wrap the oranges. And this is one example of the tissue paper for the Italian oranges based on traditional imagery of Sicily. Syracuse and antique emperors, and I went, well, at one moment I was influenced by this trend, and I designed some packages for paper napkins to be sold for tourists in the various cities. So these were paper napkins to be sold in Pisa, these were paper napkins to be sold in Firenze. But then suddenly I stopped and I said, there's something wrong in it. I have to think about something else. And how can we really develop an identity related to our time rather than borrow from the past? And then my solution was this dream which is 20 years old and which still hasn't been accomplished. I'm still advocating it. But we really don't need supermarkets with furniture. What we need is exciting shipping crates, corrugated shipping crates, so that you ship them in an empty space, you stack them one over the other in a way which gives continuity. You open the last crate, which becomes a dispenser, and then you throw what remains to the garbage. And it would have been something visually exciting, with a lot of change possibilities, but it's still not around. If you go to the supermarket, look to the few point-of-sale packages, they are still very tired and nothing exciting. So somehow I'm pleased that I don't feel that I have to throw away this idea. It's very, very comforting to have ideas which last for a longer time and which don't become outdated as we walk. And with this I'm ending this presentation. And I think we should take a little break unless you have some questions. And then I'd like to look at the slides and have your inputs.
Perfect timing, Nathan, because we're about a quarter up, and it's around the time we break between 7:30 and 7:45. So I'd like to.
I have it in my system. I mean, I can't get rid of it.
So I'd like to take a break. If we could start back at 8 o'clock, it's about 7:45 right now. As I said, we have two videos we'd like to show, and two very exciting videos. So I think it will entertain you and also inform you. They're probably altogether about, they'll probably go to about an hour there. One of them's 25 minutes, the other one's about another 20 minutes. So they'll probably take us to the end. We'll probably have enough time just to sort of wrap up both of those. But I think they'll make some very good statements and vote some questions.
Let's stretch up, move, and then let's be back full of energy. So nice to see you. We have to follow up what we discussed 4 months ago. Very nice to meet you. Are you from Kenya? Ah, yeah.
I know.
So you guys don't come to LA anymore. Are you afraid of earthquakes? What's the problem?
No, we want to come there to market.
To market.
To
Good.
sell.
Sure.
I don't think this is the time there that there's
No,
so
shall
much
we
to
look
show you.
afterwards?
Yeah, afterwards.
Well, good.
But I can just give you a brief view to excite
Good,
you.
good. Oh, now we talk. Now we talk.
Those are vests and shirts too.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I have a lot more to show you tonight.
Fantastic. And do you silk screen those?
Yeah, these are hand painted.
Hand painted.
Yeah, it's
No,
the only one.
But the time must not.
No, time is not the issue. The market is the
Really?
Mhm.
Well, the colors are beautiful.
Yeah,
Now,
well-
anything done with a computer with Xerox or with...
Well, I have all kinds of different
Show me,
fabrics
show me.
here. I'll show you later, Nathan.
Is this woven or?
This is woven.
Well, we're getting ready for a fashion show, huh?
Very nice, yeah.
Remember this?
Of course, of course.
That looks very, very nice. You're really getting high
Now
fashion.
this is Ghanaian, no?
You know,
This is
you know, I told you,
Yeah.
you have to go there because there's this guy in LA who would buy this stuff for you. He sells very high end. He has a shop in Beverly Hills. And he's married to a Kenyan woman. He's having a and he was working with one of, this is Waheto's aunt, and her husband. They, in fact, they just came back from
No, I want
Canada.
to see your label.
You need to show them. I'm telling you, you need to go down to LA and meet him and show him your stuff.
Okay.
And he'll buy it and he'll sell it because he sells a lot of stuff. I mean, he has a very high clientele, exclusive men's shop, but also women's.
Beautiful, that's
I'm sure he'd be interested in that.
Okay.
I can give you
The
the number.
contact.
Yeah.
But right now, what I'm looking for is marketing.
Well, I will follow up, you know, what I told you.
Give me
last
that.
talk.
Packaging.
And a bottle of
Muratina.
would be nice. But you see, and now the problem is that you do by hand this, right?
Yeah, but they can all be produced by machine.
Yeah.
These are
we should-
prototypes.
That's very pleasant. I think that's very nice. That's this.
It's the concept.
Yeah, and it has a quality of.
And I wanted to look African.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
still want to
yeah,
have the
yeah,
identity.
Yeah. Good.
Cultural
good,
identity.
Good. And I don't think you should put. Don't put any shiny thing here. No, just like this. I think this is nice. And this is a nice print on the cardboard. Now, is there any relationship between this and this?
Not in that, no.
But it should be, perhaps.
The only relation is that the design of the package is derived from African.
Yes, but I
That's-
think the content, and there should be, what's inside should be outside too.
Yeah, but
In
you see,
other words-
the problem with that is like for every design I have, I would have to reproduce a different package. And
Fine.
that
But
would
have you
be
seen,
a little...
listen, I will send you, have you seen their marketing now t-shirts in fantastic packages? Have you seen them? I should send you one from, they sell them at the Rizzoli bookshop. Where Rizzoli bookshop is?
I don't know any.
Tell me, what would happen if you would print the material before you do the shirt?
Print the...
Yeah, because you see, what would be wonderful is to make a whole shirt on t-shirt material before you make a shirt. You print your things and then you make
the shirt.
Yeah,
That-
but make long shirts so that you can wear them as a nightgown or as a dinner.
Yeah, I have a list of all the things, the various things that I would like to do, but I realize at this point I have to get out there and market. I think at this point the most important...
Yeah, but Naomi, what I'm trying to say is if you blow up some of your beautiful patterns in a t-shirt, it's a small audience instead of hitting it with fire.
So what are you saying? Blow
Well,
up?
not this one, but,
Uh-huh.
but this one, for instance, or this one.
Uh-huh.
Put it on the whole fabric and make it long and see where you can print it down here.
Printing is not a problem.
It's not a problem,
Yeah.
but can you print it before, you see, because this is print after the t-shirt is ready, right?
Yeah, the
No,
t-shirt.
so do it on the material before.
And then get a t-shirt made. That would mean getting a dealer.
That would mean looking for,
There's certain material in terms of
in terms of the production. The production would be a little,
It's,
because it would mean having this and then sewing it into a t-shirt.
yeah, but I think it would be different from having just a screen. You see, this looks like a monitor.
Yeah, but you see, Nathan, this could even fill the whole shirt if that's what the market wanted.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that this could just be one big screen and have it fill.
Yes.
But my experience has been, I have some shirts that I didn't bring that were full, that I filled everywhere. but they were not appealing to a lot of
Not
people.
appeal.
Yeah, especially to the kind of person that I want
You
to
have some
design
good
to.
photographs with some good models.
No, those are the only, I haven't gotten to the stage
Well,
of modeling yet.
You see, this is a whole thing, that the product is not enough. You need to think of the package and you need to think about the photographic promotion to impress the buyer, because look to what your competitors do. They really come with a complete set. This is beautiful material, but it is not yet presented in a way to compete with your competitors. I will start sending you some folders to see. And there is one of our former students, Deidre Green. Have you met Deidre? She was here in Carleton. She knows how to bang. Because I think this is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's what sets me is...
But what we are, not that maybe what you're talking about is a catalog. But I'm not ready for,
well, not catalog.
in terms of finances.
Oh,
It's a colored catalog.
No. Look what I will do. Do you have Kinko here?
Yes.
Okay, Kinko in Los Angeles now has opened in some of their centers what they call paper center. And in the paper center, they have wonderful folders and wonderful envelopes, coordinated.
Yes, I've seen that.
Now, I'm pretty sure that with very cheap Xeroxing and so forth, you can do folders, and unless you find something there. But use some of this material, which have sort of African quality, and to promote your material. It needs beefing up. It needs more intensive. Because you see, try to imagine the guy who is buying this thing. He has 20 other people coming every day with material, bombarding him. And they do it in a more intensive way. I have to show you how they do it. And believe me, their material is not as good as yours. You see, that's why I'm getting so
But
nervous.
even that which is African, Nathan, can only go so far because, for example, paper is paper. You know what I'm saying? Paper is paper. You really can't, you can only go so far, and I thought that's what I have with that product.
Yeah, perhaps. So what do you sell? Do you sell a prototype and you want somebody to buy the prototype and produce it, or do you want to produce it?
I think it's whichever works at this point. I can be the producer. I can produce and sell.
But do you have figures? You know how much it costs to have 500? And have you been to one? Now, do you want to go to a boutique which makes single pieces, or do you want to go to somebody who is a wholesale person?
Even if I got, I think I want to go to boutiques, to specialized boutiques.
But then perhaps you should go to the luxury place. Have you been to this Afghanistani chain, last? Look, I have to show you some things. When you come to Los Angeles, I'll take you to show you some things, how they do it. There is an Afghanistan chain who goes only to the luxury market. And I think that your type of design could appeal to the luxury. How is your reaction?
So how do I get into that market? Is it at this point now you've seen everything that I have?
Okay, yeah, no, that's interesting. Because last time I saw you making table cloth, so this is very different. And it looks very good to me. This is superb, this vest. It's very good.
So you talk about beefing. What's beefing?
Beefing up the marketing, not the product. You see, the product is okay.
Yeah.
It's a promotion of the product.
The representation of.
Yeah, it's photography, packaging, so that it goes to a higher class.
Okay.
Now, you know, this looks very attractive. I personally am more in favor of your fantastic sense for abstract.
Yeah, but the market.
But the market,
The market.
yeah, the
That's why
market,
I'm
yeah,
carrying
yeah,
both
yeah,
now because
exactly,
the market.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. Now, are these colors appealing to Africans?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do they appeal to?
They're appealing to Africans, and a lot of the abstracts are appealing to the upper class whites.
Right. Yeah, this is what I found out in Africa, that Africans have some color preferences and non-Africans have different color preferences.
Yeah.
Now, how do you handle both? I think you should have two lines.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have here. I realize the African American is
Is
really
this
attracted
one?
to that,
But this is,
and this is the upper class white.
I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. Now, let's ask also, have you met Shirley?
No.
No, shouldn't. She's here. She may have some thoughts. You see, now you go into the garment field, and I am a male, so I don't know too much about garments. But I think you should really continue. And I need to find the name of that guy. But before you go talk to him, I think you need to present those things in a more. I don't know how to put it. This looks beautiful to me, but I would relate the content. They should be related. You know, what you see outside, you get inside.
Okay.
So it should be an announcement of what's inside. But the sense of packaging is perfect. I fully agree. And I think this would be easier to produce than this one. Because here we have a printing problem. Though I like this very much.
Aesthetically, it's more appealing.
What?
Aesthetically, it's more appealing.
It's more appealing, but it's more difficult to print. But don't get trapped into doing it by hand. Because,
No. We've already called a few companies
Yeah,
who could reproduce that, and
yeah.
it's just an issue of they want to reproduce in thousands,
Yes.
and I'm not
yes.
yet there. So
Let me find out. It's easier for you in San Francisco. to
how about
start.
Pacific Design Center? Would they have a section that sells?
How about going to a company like Gap? No, I understand that they are here in San
Yeah, they're
Francisco.
here. They're based here.
Yeah.
But do you know anybody there? It always helps to have a personal
Yeah,
touch.
but before that, let's think well how you can entice them to develop a line for the African American.
Mhm.
And then how do you, but it has to be conceived. For instance, the idea of a vest in my opinion is very nice. Where it should be a vest with a t-shirt.
It could just either be the vest, the t-shirt alone, or the vest alone, or the vest with a t-shirt.
That vest would go beautiful with a long skirt too.
A skirt of that fabric. Or just
what's on
black.
the back? What's on the back?
No, the back is plain.
Plain.
At this point,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's a very nice. This green is very precious. Sort of olive, no?
Olive green.
Yeah, but don't you have it on the back too?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would be beautiful. Very good. But still, Naomi, I don't think that you have enough for a fashion show, for instance.
What kind of a fashion show are you thinking about? Something that we could... Because enough is not the problem, Nathan. I'm at a point where I can produce, if you wanted 10 of this,
Yeah.
I could
How
do
about
that.
500?
500, I could.
It's very beautiful. This is what is still not good. in my opinion.
What's that?
This is already close to being good. I think that should be related. What inside should be outside. In other words, the outside should be a pre-announcement of what you find inside.
Yeah, it's just that you're gonna, cost-wise, you're gonna run into a problem because you can't design outside for every different piece unless you have a standard line.
Yeah, and it's also misleading. You see, if this would be plain, then it doesn't disturb me. But because it has a pattern, it should be related to something.
Well, yeah, if you got, I agree, if this is so prominent, you could get away with even not having this and do something like that. Or if it was like a logo,
that had just that on it, or just one of the symbols, or one of the motifs, so it's there. I would agree, if this was a symbol, it would look good. And I like this, but I think it is a little clashing a bit with that, even though I like the...
No, this is beautiful, and this is beautiful. Except this should be repeated here, and this should be repeated here. Ricardo, do you know if there's a Rizzoli shop in San Francisco called Rizzoli Bookshop?
Yeah, Rizzoli, I'm not sure, no, they don't have one here. I know they're in Los Angeles.
Because they came out now with a new package for t-shirts. They sell them at $25. Beautiful.
They should sell the t-shirt.
I told you I was going to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know if you want me to show any of this.
I could give you one of
Yeah,
those, or if you want to carry.
Well,
This
the
would
book
be a
would be
place
nice.
to have a display, Ricardo.
Yeah.
This would be a place to...
Because there'll be people there from fashion. I'll show you the. I'll give you a copy of this conference I'm going to tomorrow. There's going to be some fashion people there as well.
What?
We can have dinner after that.
Because I know
Talk some more.
videos that
Yeah.
give us.
I've been there until Sunday.
Oh, yeah, when I get hold of you, I don't let go. You could be here till Sunday, but I might not see you.
How are you doing?
We're at to see Dino. Well, that's where we ran so fast.
Have you ever met Mr. Naomi here, a middle degree in from Kenya?
Nice to meet you. You doing okay? Yeah. Well, no, it's no problem. You're here and in fact, I'm a little disappointed that half of my class is not here. I've got at least 10 people, and I've got about 5. So I'm a little disappointed myself.